In this video, we're going to show you how to make a planter. I'm going to start by making a pinch pot. The first step is to take about a third of the clay that comes in my kit and roll that clay into a ball. Then I'm going to begin turning it into a pot by pushing my thumb through the middle, then wrapping my fingers around the outside, keeping my thumb in the middle and gently pinching the clay. I'm swiveling the clay around with my other hand while I pinch, just to try and keep a nice round shape. The pressure we're applying is actually quite gentle. I'm going to show you a cross section of what's happening inside the pot, so we're just trying to pull the clay up and thin it out slightly. We don't want to go too much thinner than about 1/2 centimetre. If any cracks appear on your pot as you're working with it, you can just smooth them out with your finger. Every now and then I like to flip the pot upside down and give the bottom a little bit of a tap, just so it keeps a nice round shape. If you find the rim of the pot is becoming quite uneven, it's really easy to straighten this out. I'm just going to take one of the tools from my kit, either this ribboning tool or a plastic knife, and just gently trim off the first millimetre or two from the top of the pot. This will even out the top, make it nice and flat, and you can then just take a little bit of water, dab it on your finger, and use that to smooth out any crumbs of clay or any uneven edges that have appeared. From here, it's worth just smoothing out the pot with your finger or with a damp sponge, just to give you a nice smooth surface to work on. The next step is to make slip. So slip is just a mixture of clay and water, so I'm going to tear up some little chunks of clay, add some water and then mix it together with a paintbrush or a plastic tool. This takes a couple of minutes. We're aiming for quite a thick and gloopy consistency, as this is going to act like glue. Then I'm going to mould some additional features to go onto the side of my pot. These are going to be ears, as I'm going to make a face planter, but you can make absolutely anything you like. When you're attaching two pieces of clay together, it's really important to score the two surfaces of clay that are going to meet. So I'm just going to use anything with a point, so this is the plastic knife tool, and scratch into the surface of both the pot and the extra piece of clay that's going to be added on. This gives the clay something to grip onto. Then I'm going to take the slip mixture that we've just made and dab it on top of one of those score marks. It doesn't have to go on both sides. Then push your extra piece of clay into the pot, making sure that you're supporting the inside as you're working on the outside. The score and slip method will attach your pieces really nice and securely, but I'm just going to go in with a tool and smooth out the edges just so it looks really nice and blended in. You can do this with your finger, you can use a damp sponge, or you can use any of the tools that come in the kit. Then I'm just going to repeat the process with any additional decorations that I want to add onto the surface. So like I said, in this instance, I'm making a pot with 2 ears and I'm going to be adding 2 eyes, a nose and a smile. But there are so many different things that you can do with a planter. It's completely up to you. Have a think about your own designs. You're not limited to sticking things onto the pot, you can also carve into the surface. So here's an example of another similar pot that I did where the nose is stuck on, but I just added texture onto the surface with one of the tools. When you finish with your pot, you can either let it dry and then decorate it with your acrylic paints if you want a decorative planter, or you can take it to be fired in a kiln first for a stronger pot.